Hello and welcome to the Payables Lockbox training session for board members. Glad you could join us today. Before we get started here, I want to give you an overview as to how the Payables Lockbox will really simplify the bill approval process for your association. Basically, instead of moving invoices around the approval process, so from those in the management company through to the board member, whether you're signing checks or just approving invoices, in a much probably very paper-intensive process, now you can do that through an electronic approval process called Payables Lockbox. Managers approve invoices online just like you will, but they're able to do coding and some other editing of invoices. But ultimately, when it gets to you, you'll be able to approve it through the online system. And when you have invoices to approve, you're going to get email notifications, much like there at the bottom of the screen. It'll give you an overview of those invoices that are currently in your queue. As you can see, association, invoice number, amount, vendor. And there'll also be a secure link in there that you can click on that will take you directly to the Payables Lockbox site. So you'll get these daily email notifications at some point in the morning, but you'll only get these email notifications typically when you have invoices in your queue. If you don't have any in your queue that day, you will not get an email notification. Now, to access the system, the management company will need to set you up as a user in the system. And so you will get a registration email once they do that. That will require you to create a username and a password, and you'll see that the username and password requirements are what we call strong username and password requirements. They're going to require you to probably have a uppercase and a lowercase and a digit, and so beware of that when you get started. So once you get that registration email, you'll be able to log in and access the system and actually go into what we see here, which is the My Invoices screen. So what you're seeing here is basically all of the invoices currently in your queue waiting your approval. And you can see a variety of data here. You can even modify the display columns. So maybe I don't need to see the status of the invoice, which tells me what level of the approval process it's at. Maybe I don't need to see who was changed by last or the pay type. So I can update the columns. Maybe give me a cleaner view of all of the invoices currently in my queue. And over here on the left, you've got some filtering, so you can show invoices within a certain time frame. You can also further filter by vendor or even a code. So just clicking on those dollar amounts there will do some filtering on those invoices in your queue. To clear it, you'll just click the clear button and it takes that filter away. Now, some of the other things you see on this page, you've got the ability to actually approve and reject items from this page. In case you're very familiar with those invoices and really you don't need to see the image of them. What you can also do here is you can actually mouse over the invoice number, and that will give you the detail of the invoice, kind of some more advanced details such as how is it going to be paid, when's it going to be paid, if it's got a scheduled pay date, any notes that others have put on this invoice, and even the full expense code line items down there at the bottom if you want to see those. Now, there's a couple other icons here. The calendar will tell you if it does have a scheduled pay date. So there's the default is invoices will get paid on final approval. Now that final approval may be you as the board, or maybe it's a controller or somebody internally to the management company, but the default is pay on final approval, whoever that last approver is, but it can be scheduled as well, and it will go out after all of the approvals are done. Now, if you mouse over the post-it note, you can actually see any details, any detailed notes that other users have put in for this invoice. Now if I want to go ahead and approve invoices from here, as I mentioned, because maybe I'm very familiar with these invoices, I'll just click some check boxes here of those invoices that I want to approve, and then I will click the approve button. Now once you do that, you're not through with the actual approval. The approval hasn't been committed yet, so it'll take you to a confirmation page. Now here you can see at the bottom your valid approvals. So here's two invoices that the ones I just select to approve. But let's say I decide, you know what, I don't think I'm ready to approve this one yet. Well, I can go ahead and actually click the checkbox for this bottom one, and then click delete. That doesn't delete the invoice from my queue, it just removes it from this approval release, if you will. So I'll just go ahead and see that I got one valid approval. I'll click confirm, and there I've got my confirmation, confirming one payment or one invoice was successfully approved. So if you click back, you can now go back and see that there's only 4 invoices in your queue. So you successfully approved that one invoice. If you wanted to reject an invoice, you could click the checkbox, click the reject button. And basically reject means you're going to kick it back to somebody else in the approval process, the prior approver. A lot of cases that will be your property manager. So you go in and when you do this, it's going to require that you put in a reject comment as to why you're rejecting it. So in this case, maybe I have an issue with the GL code. I'll go ahead and put in wrong GL code. I'll click confirm. You'll see that that was succeeded, and then I will click back to actually go and see that there's now going to be only 3 invoices in my queue after this rejection. So here, got 3 invoices. Now most of the time users are going to want to click on the invoice number to actually pull up the invoice detail. And this is the case where they want to actually view the invoices that they're approving. So if you click on the invoice number, it brings up the invoice details page. Now once that loads, you're going to see that invoice image is there in actually a PDF reader form. So you can from here print, save it if you wanted to. Now if I want to approve it, I'll just look at those details and I'll say this looks good, and I'll click approve. I could easily do that. So you see when you approve it, I'm now on invoice 2 of 3 in my queue. And I can just looking at the details, verifying the coding, look at any notes that the manager may have included in there. Let me go ahead and we'll go ahead and approve another one here. So I'll click approve, and it's going to take me once I do that, it's going to take me to the next invoice in my queue, the last one rather. And what I want to do here is actually want to reject an invoice here. So in order to reject an invoice, it's going to require that I put in a note in that internal notes section. So I'll go down here, and I'll put in a reason as to why I'm rejecting it. This is going to allow the manager to see why this invoice appeared back in their queue. I can click reject, and then what I'll notice here in the status is that status changes from pending board member approval to now pending property manager approval. And since I was on the last invoice in my queue, it stays on that invoice that I just took that action on. Now to go back to my invoices, I'll just click on my invoices, and now I can see I've got no longer any invoices in my queue waiting my approval. Now there's other things you can do in the system, such as search for invoices. So under the invoices tab, if you go to invoice search, as you see, there's a payment search as well, which we'll go to. But if I go to invoice search, it'll open up a screen which I can then click a new search and basically put in some search criteria. Now, in this particular site, this user has rights to multiple associations, but as a board member, you're only going to see your association. And you'll be able to select from a vendor drop-down list. So that's all the vendors enabled for your association. You can put in various other details: invoice amount, invoice number, search for an account number. That's the account number you have with that vendor. You could do an expense account. Maybe you want to search for anything, landscaping, or something paid year to date. So you've got all those date fields at the bottom where you've got predefined ranges, or you can put in a specific range. Now if I want to search for any vendor that starts with ALL, I'll just type in ALL asterisk, that's a wild card, and that's just going to give me some vendors, invoice return for any of those vendors. Again, I could do some further filtering by any of these dates if I wanted to, but in this case I'm just going to go ahead and click search and pull up those details. And as you can see, all of these invoices are for vendors that start with ALL and Allied Waste, and you've got all your other details over here that you can look at. So you could click on any of the column headers, sort by that. You could also modify the display columns, so maybe I want to show the status in here. That's going to let me see where things are currently in the approval process, at what step. Now, if I wanted to open up any of these invoices, I could by just clicking on the invoice number. So that pulls up the invoice detail. And again, I've got a read-only view here, just showing me some details about that invoice. To go back to your search results, you just click on the invoice search link again, and there are your search results. Now, let's say I want to do some other searches. I want to show you the quick search functions really quickly. So I'll click on New Search again. And then there you've got the ability on the left to see quick search items. So today, maybe I want to see all the invoices that I took action on today. So I'll click that invoices I took action on today, and there are the 5 invoices that I had approved. So if you ever want to confirm what you approved, that's an easy way to do that. Now, under the Payments tab, you can also do a payment search. So maybe you want to search for specific payments. Again, I've got some quick search functions over there to see any payments that went out today or last week or last 30 days. I can open those up. I could click on View to view any of those details of the payments. But again, you've got some other search criteria here. Again, you would only see your association, but you've got other search criteria: check number ranges, vendors, etc. And there's also on the search results some export options that you'll see that you can also return. So if you wanted to get a list of payments paid in the last 180 days to a particular vendor, you could get those search results and actually view those payments, the details of those payments. And again, you've got those export options as I mentioned. Now, that's a majority of the things you'll do in the system. If you ever have any support issues, you can go to the support at the top and click Contact Support. You can see at the bottom there's a contact information for Strong Arm support, but typically the first level of support, as you see up there, is your management company. So always go to your management company first, because there's a client administrators that will typically be able to assist you with some of your questions. There's other documentation, FAQs up here as well for reference. Hope you enjoy using the system. I think that you all will find that it's a much easier way to actually get those invoices approved and actually have some good oversight. So we hope you enjoy. Thanks for your time.